Alright, time for another Tavern tale. This one is about the two times I played, well, not the exact two times, but two times I played a RPG from a completely different country. Now, I've played RPGs made in Europe, German RPGs. I've played the Witcher RPG, which is based off of the Witcher novels. I've played Thieves World, which is really big in Europe these days, not so much in America. I mean, I've played a lot of RPGs, but for the first time I played something a little new a few months ago, which are Ouya based RPGs. So Ouya, and I played a Ouya RPG and a like tabletop RPG and a RPG from Japan. And I'll tell you more about that after the cut. I'll do the Ouya based Chinese one first, and then we'll do the Japanese one after that. Just give you my thoughts, my ideas, how I felt about it, etc., etc. after the cut. So, without much ado, before I can get into the game itself, I'll tell you about what Ouya style games are. RPGs are tabletop RPGs. Ouya is the catch-all term for Chinese cultivation epics. These typically have a character starting out weak and gradually becoming more powerful. Basically, the best way I can describe Ouya for people who can't really understand it is, think of the Dragon Ball manga. Not Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball. Think about how Dragon Ball has Goku constantly becoming more powerful, but every time he thinks he's at the height of power, things open up and he discovers, well, I'm not that powerful at all. The best novel I can give you to describe the type of worlds that Ouya has is, think of Journey to the West, the novelization, the book, with Sun Wukong and Pigsy and that crazy monk, shape-shifting dragon, stuff like that. Basically, that's the type of world you're living in. You've got demons and monsters and humanoid humanoid animals, stuff like that. It's based on Chinese mythology and mystical concepts. So the game I was playing was called Ring of the Nine Dragons, and basically Ring of the Nine Dragons, I'm not going to tell you who makes it, you can go look it up. It's a manga where basically you create your character, you choose basic cultivation styles. So this is basically like a movement style, a defensive style, an offensive style, stuff like that. You choose three. You roll your stats, and the cool thing about the game is that you only have three stats to worry about. There's will, there's body, strength, and spirit. There's body, spirit, and chi. That's what it is. Body, spirit, and chi. And basically, which is kind of cool that you only have to worry about three friggin' stats. But here's the thing. Unlike most RPGs where D&D, where you can try and do something, but if your stats are shit, it's harder for you to do it. In this game, it's you have hard stats. So if you aren't capable of doing something, your chances of doing it are slim to none. but there is a chance that you can do an endeavor roll, which basically will make it so that, like if you're in a life or death situation, you might have a breakthrough, your stats might go up. And in order for you to learn different skills, to unlock different abilities with your martial arts styles, you have to actually have, you have to literally have those arts, those styles. You have to meet certain criteria. So the character I rolled was, I've been on a Fist of the North Star kick lately. So I basically focused on the Enkai style of boxing. The Enkai style basically is it's basically Fist of the North Star. It's a martial arts style where my character could basically an offensive martial arts style where my character could basically implant through physical attacks bits and pieces of my own chi into my enemies and then detonate it, causing them to explode. And at higher levels, I didn't even have to use my chi. I could use their chi and hit pressure points. So basically, I was Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, which is badass as fuck. I mean, let's keep it real. So basically, the game was really fun. The DM, it's different from your prototypical D&D style tabletop dice and graph paper RPG. It's not so much about gods and the lore of the world so much as like trying to become more powerful. Like the whole point is to basically become powerful enough to get to a certain point and yet to realize that this is only the tip of the iceberg. So the whole thing is just you becoming more powerful the entire time, which is a very interesting situation to be in because, like I said, you're always becoming more powerful. It's a never-ending process of your character becoming more powerful. So overall, the game was a fun experience. The party that I was with, one of the characters basically had a Sun Wukong thing, so he literally created the Monkey King basically who used a bow staff. He was trying to get the character powerful enough to use something like the most compliant celestial rod. Another character who was playing as a demonic monster creature, a demonic animal creature that had cultivated to where it was like a humanoid snake. And she had basically cultivated that to the point where it was just like she was using snake martial arts and poisoning people. It was pretty damn badass. And the other two characters were playing a couple of brothers who, like, one was really, really fat, and the other one was really, really, really skinny, who cultivated kind of weird martial arts. The fat one had martial arts that were speed-based. The skinny one had strength-based ones, but their stats fit what they actually were cultivating in, so it was really kind of weird. And they called themselves the Yin Yang Brothers. So it was a fun experience. I would advise, if you do tabletop gaming, mix it up with some Ouya or even Zanzia style martial arts games. So with that being said, I'll move on to the second tabletop game I played, which was called Black Pearl, or at least that's what I was told it's called, because it's a tabletop RPG from the land of the rising sun. Yeah, it's Japanese, and I'll tell you a little bit about that after the cut. So here we go with another one. This The next game that I played, this was like all in the same day. Group of friends. Well, the DM and I were friends, and he needed a fifth, and I was the fifth guy. But because their normal fifth didn't get in. The next game that we played the Ouya game that morning, and it was a nice little adventure. And I would like to play again. They said they'd invite me again if they ever got time, if I was ever available. But the next one they came up with was something that I was looking forward to, and it was a little weird for me. It was a Japanese game called Black Pearl, or something of that effect. And the gist behind this one was, it's set in a fictitious Japan-like area. It's an island, but it's about the size of Australia. And basically, it's like a mystical world where like yokai, where like a U.S. type government tried to take over, but the yokai defeated them and basically kept them from ever coming, opening up this Japan type area. So basically, the entire game is just like you journeying in this empire and like doing quests. So it's actually more like D&D than the Ouya game, but that's where the similarities end, because it is weird as balls. I mean, like, you can tell it's made by someone who's kind of a perv, because they're like slimes that eat female characters' armor off of their bodies. It's a little ecchi, if you will. And there's like an entire group of martial arts that are involved with sex. It's really, I mean, look, if I knew I was playing the XXX version of D&D, I would have been like, okay, I get it. But this was a little bit too much. But the game, for what it was fun. I wound up playing basically just a wandering samurai. I was like, I could have come up with a better character, but I was like, I'll just play a wandering samurai. And they let me think of an origin for the character and write it down. That gave him a little quirk. And the quirk for my samurai was that while he was really good at using swords, he got his ass kicked at some point in the past, after talking mad shit. And now he's really afraid of he's got a psychological trauma with using his sword. So even though he's really good at using swords and has a high sword skill, he doesn't actually use a sword anymore. He uses a bakken, or just a normal wooden stick. So I thought that would be a nice little affectation for the character. So his whole thing is to get over his trauma so that he can once again wield swords and be what he once was. That's his personal journey. And I thought that'd be a nice little thing for the character. And the DM was cool with it. I think I'll do a Tavern Tale in the future talking about how origins can add depth to characters. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, what I'm saying is that the game was weird. One of the people playing with us was killed by a spider sex demon. Because he failed multiple dexterity checks and endurance checks. And the spider demon killed him after taking what she wanted from him. She just totally murdered his ass. And I was like, Jesus. Another character in our party was a Buddhist monk who essentially was a fallen Buddhist monk who basically was like doing unrighteous things and trying to get back in the good graces of, you know, Buddha and all that type of fun jazz. I mean, it was a good game and it was fun. And you know, the other people in the game were you know, quite friendly, but it just, I mean, you know, this whole thing with slimes, Japan, you gotta stop having hentai, tentacles, and slime and shit. It's old. Do something different. Or maybe, you know, maybe be you. You know, don't do something. Just be you. So, anyway, the game was fun. It was everything I ever wanted. The only real thing that kind of brought the game down for me a little bit was, I feel that I wasn't really briefed on what the game was about or what the rule set really was before I was thrown into it, so I made some faux pas myself, but they got me up to speed. I think that wasn't really the game's fault, that was just DM and the people around me were kind of like not really into it. So, with that being said, I'll give you my overall thoughts about my East meets West experience with D&D and talk about upcoming events for the channel after the cut. So, I guess it's time to talk about my overall thoughts about the game. I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. I think it was well made. Not perfect, but well made. I think that I had more fun with the Ouya game just because it was very different from D&D, and the rules were it was simpler and easier to get into. So if you want to play something different for a tabletop game, this is the way to go. Because for me, I find that most people get turned off by tabletop games because they don't understand the rule set, or the DMs aren't really, you know, they don't know how to simplify things and make it easier for newbies to get into it, while still keeping it, having it have enough depth so that people who've been playing tabletop games for years can get into it too. A lot of games kind of fall apart because they don't deal with that. You know, the fact that there are people who, like me, I've been playing D&D style games since I was like 9 or 10, so that's 21 years at this point. So I mean, like when it comes to RPGs, I'm not a newbie, and I'm like really I'm not even one of the longest playing tabletop game person, because I know people who have been, like, I know people in their 50s and 60s who were playing D&D when it first started in the 70s, you know, and have been playing some version of D&D for the last like 30, 40 years. So, I mean, I'm like a baby. I'm like second, third gen, but at the most. But, you know, I enjoy it for what it is. That being said, the first game was great. I would advise people try their hands at a Ouya style cultivation RPG. The second game, a little too weird for my taste, but if you want to play something that's very Nippon inspired, the land, the rising sun inspired, then this is your thing. And you might enjoy it. Let's see what else. That's it. Time to talk about announcements and upcoming events. Basically, we have two things coming up. We have another, everything that was scheduled for last week, the BS Buster for Sunday, and Sci-Fi Power Hour new programming for the channel has been rescheduled for the same days, but for this week, because the panelists weren't really responding. And for future Sci-Fi Power Hours, the first one, which is going to be this Saturday, is basically going to be pretty much devoted to Star Trek. The next Sci-Fi Power Hour-ish is going to be devoted to Godzilla. So, if you are a Godzilla fan and you watch this channel and you have a mic and access to internet, I invite you to join the podcast, because we'll be talking about Gojira, cinema's longest running monster movie franchise, which is an awesome distinction. But first we'll do Star Trek. One of American cinema's longest running science fiction program. So yeah. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of the video. This is me playing Dungeon Man's nice little rogue-like dungeon game where you beat the shit out of enemies and level up and collect loot and equip yourself and get stronger and keep on doing the same thing over and over again. Peace.